everybody, this is Rose of Sharon, and I'm back again with another book review. I just recently read The Reign of the Kingfisher, which is written by T.J. Martinson, and I was actually drawn by the title, and I wasn't really sure what it was about, but the book itself is extremely compelling just because it's about a vigilante who is supposedly dead, and there are groups of, actually I should say a group of hacktivists. They're called the Libertines, which is a wonderful play on words. It's absolutely sensational, and Martinson's prose is very gritty, very bombastic in the way that a lot of his characters will converse with one another, and they use profanity quite a bit, but actually it makes sense due to where they're coming from and what has happened in the hostage situation that we're presented with. And this is a phenomenal book. I had never heard of Mr. Martinson before, but I'm definitely hooked, and I would love to read more by Mr. Martinson. This was my first T.J. Martinson book. And it takes place in Chicago, which really brings to the forefront cities like Chicago that have a lot of violence and corruption that surround them. And I've lived in the suburbs due to the fact that I really don't want to have anything to do with that kind of violence and bloodshed and mob mentality, and there are just a number of different problems, but it seems like Chicago is the one that gets mentioned the most in the news. And with that being said, I think that it's apropos that such a thing would be spoken of, and TJ doesn't pull any punches. He doesn't sugarcoat any of it, and it's raw. It's very, very gnarly and twisted and complicated, because people are very complicated, and the whole justice system as a whole, holistically, it's broken, just like a lot of other things are in our crazy mixed up world. But nonetheless, this has that glimmer of hope through the Kingfisher, and what happens in the duration of the book is actually just absolutely thrilling, and you are in for an adrenaline rush. It is the ride of a lifetime. It's just absolutely spectacular, and I'm not going to spoil anything, because if I do, it'll ruin just the wonderful conclusion, and the fact that it's actually a happy ending, which with a suspense novel, sometimes it doesn't always happen. Of course, there are some incidences where things don't end as well as you would have liked for them to, but it adds to the realism of the story. And I'm glad that he's tackling this subject, because it seems very taboo. A lot of people think, oh, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to be considered not politically correct. And we're so afraid not to be politically correct just because we don't want to step on other people's toes. If we do this in a tactful way, if we do so asserting ourselves and conversing like adults with one another, we can reach understanding, and we don't have to come from the same background in order to do this. There are solutions to these problems, and the first business I have in mind actually would tackle all of that, because I feel that the biggest problem that a city like that actually has is lack of jobs. And it's not the city's fault, but it's just due to just rampant poverty, and people are doing what they can to get by. It's not everybody, it's just a select number of certain individuals. And if my business were to be implemented in impoverished towns such as that, crime rate would go down immediately, because idle hands are the devil's workshop. And that really especially with SJWs, and he speaks of SJW. Yeah, it's hard for me to say SJWs right very well here, and I don't discount the work of an SJW. However, I think that SJWs come across as zealots, and they need to check themselves before they wreck themselves, because I mean, it may be admirable, it may be the right cause, but are they going about it in the correct manner? There are ways to go about things in a more analytical, logical, rational way, rather than just charging at the problem head on. No, 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 don't do that. There are methods. This is why social workers exist, and there are people that are trying to do good with the skills and talents they possess, and I feel like I'm one of those people, even though I can't do anything right now just due to the fact that I do not have a degree to do so. So it is a process. It's just the whole process is worthwhile. It's just like a work of art. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But I do realize that at some point in time, and I've already envisioned it, I've seen myself cutting the red ribbon for both of my businesses, even though the other one is more so for the people in their golden years of life, and it's a resort. But I would be the founder and figurehead behind it. I wouldn't be actually running it. Other people would. But the first one, that's my brainchild. That's my baby, and I feel a lot more passionate. I feel passionate about both, needless to say, but I favor the first, just because it was my first really stable idea that makes sense and can work. It has so much possibility and probability, and it can function in the real world. So why not me? I keep asking myself this, why not me? And I realize that it's a hard question to ask myself, because I know I have the markings of a leader, but sometimes I'll look in the mirror and I think, am I really up to the challenge of doing this? Are people going to take me seriously? I've only led one person in my lifetime, and they laughed behind my back just because of the way I look. I look like I'm 16. At the time when I was doing it, I was 23. So I probably looked like I was 12. Nevertheless, I don't let my youthful parents weigh me down. I actually use it toward my advantage. Let me see. I've been a mentor before. I don't feel like I have the expertise. I'm getting more of it. I've grown more in 2 years than I have in my whole entire life. So there's still much I can learn, but there's much to be said here from Reign of the Kingfisher, which I feel really spurs me onward to want to do good, to become basically a heroine in a sense. But if you're interested in heroes, even without superpowers, then Reign of the Kingfisher is for you, and especially just due to the realism of it, how really poignant it is, and how relevant and relatable. It is a hero novel filled with suspense and hostage situation that is just white knuckle, bare bones, absolutely horrifying to read, because these things happen every day. So it makes me think that such a thing might even be happening in our world currently, but we might not know about it. But that's all I have to say about the Reign of the Kingfisher. So until next time, live on, prosper. Ciao tutti.